Hey there, and welcome back to another episode of Sunset Rewind. I'm Kevin Dole, along here with former UCLA football player and Rose Bowl participant in 1994, Mo Padios. Today we have some special guests in the studio with us. From Corona Del Mar High School, we have head coach Dan O'Shea, senior running back Evan Sanders, and senior linebacker Mason Kubicheck. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us today.
A pleasure to be here.
Thanks for making it by here. We appreciate it. So, Coach, what can you tell us about these two athletes you brought with us today? What makes them so special and important to the CDM program?
Well, it's really neat because I was thinking about a couple of guys in this particular senior class and thinking about these kids when they're sophomores. They're in the midst of that COVID spring year, and just kind of thinking this is one of a group of kids who, in their particular case, being 3-year starters, who went through the COVID practice and the QBs would throw a ball and you couldn't catch it. You had to let it go through your hands and
Remember that?
6
Yeah, I
feet
do.
distance and stuff. But just tremendous assets to our program as young men, outside of being special football players. Evan came up through our program, playing in our Seahawks, Pop Warner, if you will, group. Was wonderful as a freshman and took on a big chore as a sophomore as a running back in our program. And it didn't take long to figure out he was a special, talented guy, developed both the mental side of the game and the physical side of the game, that he could hold up on Friday nights physically, one of the stronger kids in our team, but being able to pick up our scheme. And he's just been a dream to have back in the running back. And I'm sure there's been some great ones, but I think he'll leave as one of the greatest running backs that ever come out of Corona Del Mar High School, and that's quite a statement, I think. And then Mason, similarly, a 3-year starter, started outside backer for us as a sophomore, and he earned the right to do it. We challenged our kids. There's juniors and seniors that were talented that year, but he proved he was not only capable, but playing multiple positions at linebacker, and had a wonderful junior year as well. And we're really excited about him in the senior year, being able to bounce over this year and play some offense as a slot receiver.
Oh, awesome.
We kind of forgot when he was a young kid playing in forwards and playing the Seahawks. He was a wide receiver DB coming up, and his freshman year he just got thrown in linebacker because there's an injury to one of our kids. And we're like, okay, you're a linebacker. You're really good at that.
So did he get some time in the 7-on-7 ball this summer?
Yeah, he just got going. And it's like, oh God, we forgot he can play. And
Got some depth all of a sudden.
Yeah, and it's wonderful. I think it's a great opportunity for him. He needs to spend more time in the offense. Like, hey, go learn that. You know the defense really well. So I think it's been fun for him learning that challenge. And it's really excited to see him catch a ball and carry it on offense, and it just have that different side of the ball, which Evan could do it too. He'd probably be one of our best linebackers, but it's really neat for these kids going into their senior year, second year that feels normal after their sophomore year being such an odd situation. And I think the leadership of this particular group, ever since they were freshmen and going to their sophomore, now junior, now senior year, I think they just had a dinner gathering all together last week. Just a unique leadership group from as young men of what we want to embody to be men of character, be great academians, be great social decision makers on campus and off campus, and model for our younger players in our program what it means to be a Sea King. Because we ask kids to be a little bit different type of human in our program, and they model it so very, very well. And it's a pleasure to have them here today.
That's awesome. Mason, do you have a preference on being on the offense or defensive side of the ball?
I love defense. Defense is my number one. I'm primary linebacker, but I have fun on offense as well.
Okay, good deal. Well,
it's like a little hobby treat. You get, be able to get the ball in your hands, and those.
It's different, but it's fun.
Yeah, it's fun.
Coach, I want to ask you about your coaching career in terms of where you first started and kind of your journey from the first coaching gig you had to where you're at now.
Well, that's a great question, and we have a couple of young guys on our staff who are coming aboard in the last year or two, who are kind of becoming teachers, becoming coaches, and kind of walk them through the journey I took with it. I played a year of junior college football. It was the single worst experience of my life because it was playing high school ball, I think similar to the context that they're in many programs are in. It meant everything to me. I'm playing with my friends. I felt like there was a purpose. I went to junior college. It just felt like
Just
everybody's out
random
for
people.
themselves,
Yeah.
and it's not why I played the game. And after that next year, my sophomore year in college, I was asked to come back to St. Anthony and coach the Frosh soft team. And I was hooked the first day.
Yeah.
I was like, that's what I want to do with my life. And maybe that little male ego got in the way. I was going through college. I kept coaching. But my mom was a teacher, and I wasn't ready to be teacher coach yet. But I coached through college and coached 5 of the 10 years I was a banker. And then in 2003, my high school I went to, St. Anthony, asked me to come down on the hiring committee. He was like, hey, will you come down and be on the hiring committee? We need a football coach. I'm like, great. And after the first night, I go, can I interview for the job and jump on the other side of the table?
Wait a minute, these are my qualifications.
Right.
I might
And it was a little bit, anxiety filled. And every friend I had, like, what are you doing? You're a banker and you're going to go make that? I'm like, this is what I want to do with my life. I don't want to die and wish I did.
Wonder what if.
Did what I wanted to do.
Right.
And I made that jump in 2003. I was a head coach at St. Anthony, 03 and 04, and just had a great time. And then 05, I was lucky enough, a friend of mine, Jason Negro, got the head job at Tribuco Hills, asked me to come down there to be the defensive coordinator.
I wanted to ask you about that staff, because there's, you
Well,
talk
yeah,
about
that
those
staff
coaching
was
trees
impressive.
who've gone on to do. Tell us about some of the coaches that you coached
It
with
was
at Tribuco.
it was an amazing group. Jason Negro was head coach, and he was a dear friend of mine. I met in 1999 when I coached a year at St. John Bosco. I almost jumped to teaching then if they had a teaching job, but in 1999 he was DB coach. I was a backfield coach on offense under Kiki Mendoza. Really great man. And Monty McDermott was the offensive coordinator. Powell was defense coordinator. So Jason and I became really, really close. Like, hey, I'm going to do this someday, and whoever gets a head job first, let's work for each other. And oddly, I got the head job in 03, and then he got the Tribuco job in 04. And so he was the head coach. I became the defense coordinator. Chad Johnson,
Mission Viejo.
Right.
who went to El Toro and played under Mike Milner, and now the head coach at Mission Viejo High School. Really talented guy who became the offensive coordinator that year when I came on. And then with that was Kevin Hedeg, who in 2005, my first year there, was a student teacher at Tribuco. And he would come into the classroom for his classes. He was student teaching for a U.S. history teacher, but we did lunch meetings. And so he'd come in after and we started talking. We became fast friends. I was like, hey, you want to coach football? Like, well, I'd love to. And he was a quarterback and baseball player. So long story short, he and Chad became great friends, became roommates for, 2 or 3 years. And they literally created the offenses they both use in that little lab of their condo apartment that they rented. And Jason was real kind to me. I'd never coached defense before and taught me the defense that had been in place at Tribuco for years. And I really came to embrace it. And we had a great run, 05 through 2010. And for Jason, he left after that 2009 season. We lost La Habra in the championship game.
We lost them in the semifinals that same year.
Yes,
we remember.
Cyprus played La Habra in the semis,
Yep.
and we had Tustin in the other semi, and we were fortunate enough to sneak by those guys. And we got the buzzsaw at the Big A in 2009 against La Habra in the rain.
Yeah, I remember that.
And then Jason had a great opportunity back to the school. He went to school at St. John Bosco. Chad went with him.
Right.
And then Kevin and I, were great friends and wanted to stay together. And there was a transition at Tribuco at the time. And we thought Scott Meyer, who'd become a good friend of mine, was offered the job, but the recession was going on at the time. That was 2010.
All those pink
They're like,
slips in that
hey, you can
industry.
be the
I
head
remember
coach, but we can't offer you a teaching job. So that went sideways a little bit. The next year, 2011, fate, was generous to us. In 2011, all three of us landed at Corona Del Mar. Scott Meyer was the head coach. I was defense coordinator. Kevin was the offensive coordinator. We've been there ever since. And it is about the greatest place in the world to teach and coach. Great community, great place with the kids that come. And we really take a lot of pride in the local community kids playing with their best friends they've been with since they're 5 or 6 or 7, playing soccer or t-ball or whatever.
You've got a player that goes in line with what you're talking about. I'm going to ask you about him in a few minutes, but I want to go back real quickly to that 2019 season. You guys hit the trifecta. You won the league championship, you won the CIF championship, and you win the state championship. And you guys designed one of the nicest rings I've ever seen. In fact, Murph, do we have a picture of that ring? Look up CDM state championship ring. Is that? Yeah, there it is. Do you design that, or who?
We are going to give all the credit in the world to our associate head coach and offense coordinator, Kevin Hedeg. That was his baby, and he did about as good a job as ever could be done on a high school ring.
I mean, I wish I was on your staff that
Slippery
year just to
there.
have one of those bad boys, because that is a good. Now, guys, it's
Yeah.
in the cards if you take care of business this year, right?
Yes, sir.
Is seeing that ring kind of a motivation to you guys at all?
100%.
Chase that ring,
Say,
right?
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing. I don't know how you can be a high school athlete, or specifically a high school football player at Corona Del Mar or anywhere, and not wake up 365 days a year and not get out of bed and said, I got to chase the ring. I mean,
Right.
like, what else are you going to do in life when you're a high school athlete. I mean, it's that important to you in that juncture of time, and life will change, of course. But when you're a high school football player, it's so unique. And I think all of us as a coach and us as a community, that's got to be our mentality, and that's what we've embraced. And we have the, chase the ring sign. They tap it, both in the locker room and in the weight room.
Kind of like how Notre Dame has that.
Right,
penalty
yeah,
championship.
right.
Kind
Yeah.
of the same idea.
Yeah.
And it's just like, what other goal would you have to not be the best version of yourself you can be that year?
100%.
And so,
So in regards to that, you had a successful 2021 season. I know obviously the goal is to win CIF every year. So what were the key takeaways from last season that are going to help you get to that next level this season?
well, I think it's a great question. I think a few years ago, coming in the Sunset League was a challenge that our players welcomed and enjoyed. And I think coming off that 2021 season, thinking about the challenge and just incredible rivalry that's been developed with Edison High School, thinking back to a couple games that were a challenge to us. I think we won the first two. They won the last two. One was a 5 overtime game in that spring year, and then a dogfight last year. And I think there's so much respect amongst the programs that, after the game, they're hugging each other up, man. It's a dogfight. And then certainly La Sal's has set an incredible standard now, I think, in the Sunset League. And we all want to embrace that challenge and play our very, very best against them. And then getting in the playoffs is such a unique experience now. Last year was the first time going into, at the end of 10 games, CIF decides what division you're in.
Right.
You used to kind of have a pretty good idea of who you're going to
Yeah,
play,
you
and
would.
now you don't even know what division you're going to.
You really
let alone
would.
your opponent.
I mean, just thinking back the years in 16, well, shoot, we knew in May we have to beat Lone Palk. Thanksgiving.
Right,
we
right.
knew when they were going to be the 1 seed. And
Because your league was associated with the division.
yeah, it was
so-
associated with the division. And Grace Brethren, back in the years as well, they got us in 18. Well, when you woke up every day, you're thinking about beating Grace Brethren
Right.
for 365 days. And fortunately, we got another shot against them. And that's the fun of it is being, hey, little revenge game. It stirs the innards a little bit.
Absolutely.
Now it's a little bit different dynamic for sure, but I think our kids want to play against whoever. If this team is worthy to, whether it's Division 1 or 2 or 3, whatever it comes out, let's go play.
Well, let me ask you about that. The old division, or the old way CIF is whatever league you're in, you went to that division. First,
Yeah.
second, third, or automatic qualifier.
Yeah.
Now it's based on your strength of schedule, wins and losses. There's a whole bunch of different parts that go into that formula. Do you have it? Do you prefer the old way versus the new? And would you change anything about the new if you could, or are you good with it?
I think it's imperfect either way.
Right.
It's just a natural
pros and
imperfect
cons to
way.
both.
I think we all miss the old rivalries that evolved in playoffs, being in kind of the same division every year. You knew who you had to beat, and there's some charm to that, if you will. And then now it's like, hey, we got in Division 2 last year. It's like, okay, look, Warren, shoot, we don't know who they are. Let's go play them. I mean, we're fortunate enough to have a nice game and be able to beat them. Then, all right, Orange Lou, let's go. Trinity League, let's see where we're at.
What's your take on the Trinity League teams being in the divisions? Like, do you think they should have their own division? Because you think of the Boscos of the world in the modern days, where they're competing for national titles, and it's just hard for a public school like a Mission Viejo or Los Alamitos. It's just such a different level.
It really is. And I don't think you can blame Bosco and Modern Day. They're definitely on a different planet.
They're bringing in guys, and that's fine. I mean,
they're on a different planet, and kudos to them. I mean,
Right.
they're exceptionally talented, deep, but they're just on such a different level than the next 8 to 10.
Yeah, would you put them in their own, like almost like take the Ringers from San Diego, the Modern Days from Orange County, maybe in LA, have their own division? Or do you think it's fine the way it is and you just got to step up?
I'm sure, not going to speak for Jason Egger or Bruce Rawlinson. They certainly want to stay local, but gosh, you could almost take the top 8 teams in the country and just have a national championship.
You don't think people wouldn't watch that from all over? I mean, California, the Florida people,
at
Texas.
the
Bishop Gorman out in Vegas.
At the moment, there's not too many teams in the country that can play with them at all. I know they're both playing multiple out-of-state games, et cetera, et cetera. And I know we saw Mission Viejo this summer, and that's the best Mission Viejo team I've seen in 5 years. We played Orange Lou last year, who was middle of the pack, or bottom third of the Trinity, and they're a handful. I mean,
Right.
the level of play is tremendous in that league, and kudos to Bosco and Monterey. They've just done a great job. They're well coached with really talented players. It's fun as heck for us to play them in 7-on-7. You know, we have an overtime game with Mater Day, and you know, do the same with it's great. It's
Good.
really great, and that's great summer activity. It's just the line of scrimmage is different in that particular league compared to everybody else. And I think La Salle and the Mission Viejos are, as public schools, are trying to get that line of scrimmage neutralized so their athletes can play equally on the perimeter with all of those teams. But it's just the line of scrimmage. Can you match up with them? And, you know, Servite came very close last year, had a chance to beat both those teams. But it's a tough equation. I think there's the top two for sure. And then below that, I think there's a chunk of 8,
That could all contend and have a legitimate shot.
Yeah, 8 to 10 teams that are slightly different.
In
Like
that
the
range.
Sierra Canyons and
You have the Crespies
the
of
Bishop
the
of
world.
Mott's and the Servites, you know, that they're all in Mission Viejo and La Salle. I think they're in a cluster, although I think La Salle and Mission Viejo, you know, TBD on the line of scrimmage. But I don't know if you know, say we go 8-2 or 9-1 or 10-0, whether, you know, if we finish 10-1, kind of like in 19. We would have been Division I in today's format. I think the number 8 seed playing Bosco.
Right.
Like,
Right.
Yeah, you would have gotten
And then if you win
the
that,
open
you go to
division.
Servite,
Right.
and then
All
you
right,
get to
well,
win
hand the
the
ball off. All right,
championship.
Evan, good luck with that one, baby.
Yeah, your reward is you get basically a first round bye because there's only 8 teams, but then you have to, you know, face the heavy hitters.
We have so much respect for the teams in Division One, but everybody's operating from a different parameter. You know, ourselves at Corona Del Mar is every single one of the kids in our program live in Corona Del Mar, and we don't complain about
It's
it.
a tight knit.
Yeah, we don't complain about
Yeah,
it.
you guys all
whatever.
grew up together. It seems like a very tight knit community over
But
there in
we're
Corona
one
Del
of
Mar.
2 school districts in California that don't allow kids from outside the district to come play.
Oh,
or go to
really?
school there.
Interesting.
I didn't know that.
Where Cabell Unified or Saddleback or every other school district in the county can take kids from other districts and go to school there.
And yet you're still achieving a high level of success year after year. I mean, that says a lot about your program. That
And you take a
you truly
measure
are
of pride in
homegrown.
that, obviously.
And we take an incredible amount of pride with it. Like, you know, we love the summertime, like, hey, let's go play anybody. And we had a fun summer. And then as the Sunset League and non-league unfolds, we want to schedule the best teams we can possibly play, and great rivalries with San Clemente and San Juan Hills, Palos Verdes, the like, preseason. Sunset League with Newport Harbor. There's not a better game emotionally
Yeah.
for these guys.
We're going to get to that. The
So Battle Bay, we'll
Yeah,
get
we'll
to that. It just, what a theater for a high school football player to play. But now we enter the playoffs, whether we end up Division I or II. You know, hopefully we're able to be successful. Cal Preps does a wonderful job with their algorithms in that the teams that are the top will be the top 12 this year as opposed to the top 8. So the top 12 is going to be Division I, and the next 16 are going to be Division II. And well, if you're in that matrix, it doesn't matter. I mean, if you're 1 or 16 in Division II, you're in the realm of being able to play whoever.
Right.
I mean, I think we had our shots last year against a talented Orange Lou team. We wouldn't say we played the best, but they're certainly the better team that night. I'm sure we'd love to.
Look, not everybody can win it. I
No,
mean, the
not
reality
everybody
is
can win
only
it.
One's going to put that ring out the end
And
of
the
year.
onus is upon us to make sure on those Friday nights in November and early December in the playoffs, whether it's Division I, Division II, we got to play our very best football that night to win it because it's a bloodbath now of 4 real games.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, our opener in the playoffs, it used to be, all right, 49-7 against.
Then it got a
something.
little more real by the quarterfinals.
Yeah, and now
it's-
your opener game is, do you guys show up? And
Yeah.
we had our hands full in the first half against Warren, and it's a takeaway. Okay, boy, that doesn't look like the scout team. Boy, we can't tackle that guy yet. But it gives you a great opportunity to play the teams that are as close as you possibly can with the CalPress rankings. Hey, if you play well, you have a chance to win.
Right.
If you don't play well, you're probably going to go home, and you deserve it. You got to be able to play well in the playoffs because it's 4 games that are just a war.
So in that respect, I think CIF got it right.
I think so.
They're trying to get you against
I think
teams
so,
that
in
are
that grand
comparable
picture,
and-
yeah.
It's not an exact science, however.
And I think
close
just
enough.
take out the matrix of the Division I. That's just tough for all of those guys to get to it. But the other divisions, short of a 1 or 2, like I know there's a lot of tough thing with poly drop down, and it just
they rolled
it's
through
hard to
Division
get used
IV.
to them
It's-
dropping down Division 4.
Yeah.
But I think it's a work in progress, and CIF has done an incredible job being open-minded and listening to coaches and principals, et cetera, to try to create the most competitive, and you hear that term all the time with him, and I believe in it, competitive equity. And those 16 teams, or whatever division it is, they're about as close as they can be ranked. The winner, whoever wins that thing, is going to play 4 really good football games. They're going to need to play 4 really good football games to put a ring on.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, game time. Coach, you get to play, but you got to play as if you were a player. Okay, so I want you to answer these questions when you were the player, not the head coach, okay?
Gotcha.
All right, this is called Have You Ever. All you got to do is raise your hand if you've ever done this, okay? Yeah. Have you ever broken the huddle, gone on the line of scrimmage, and had no idea what you're supposed to do? All right, we got one honest guy. You've known every time?
Yeah, I mean, defensively, there's not really a time where you don't know what to do. Like,
Okay, so they called a certain blitz and you knew what gap. Okay, fair enough. Have you ever fallen asleep during films?
Go ahead, Evan. Hopefully not a regular occurrence, but
It's every once in a while. It's just
Can I just say some of the players' defenses? You got to understand, I mean, just looking at these guys, they're not on some calorie-restricted diet. They eat a big lunch. Usually films comes about an hour after lunch, right? Yeah. The coaches will take you into a room. They kill all the lights. There's usually the hum of an AC unit or a fan. Then the food coma starts to
Only
kick
the
in.
environment.
And then there's just play after play, rewind, play. And it's like that guy with the clock just going back. And then you start doing this a little bit. And once that happens, you don't have a shot. Now you're just hoping films will end because
That sound about right?
is that kind of how it went down?
And there should be a disclaimer. These guys now on their phones up till much later than we were. You know, we used to be so bored we'd had to go to bed. These guys are up so much later.
It's not so much the food coma, it's the lack of sleep.
But I believe I knew I was done with college football when I fell asleep in an offense meet as the quarterback at Long Beach City College. Meaning I was so emotionally not invested. I was like,
But even if
well,
you are,
you're the
it's
starting
just dark,
quarterback.
you're
What do you mean you're
tired,
not?
It's brutal. I used to
Yeah.
say that was like one of the hardest parts of football for me was films. I liked watching my opponents and myself, but it's just the environment is just so hard to stay up. It was brutal.
We totally get it. I totally get it.
Oh, we'd get an earful from the coach. All right, have you ever tried to listen in on the other team's huddle to get the play?
All the time.
Yeah.
Hey, if they can't keep it in the huddle, that's their problem, right?
All the time.
Okay. Have any of you ever gotten an unsportsmanlike penalty?
I might have. I don't remember a specific time, but
Is that probably a good way to be hanging out next to the? Oh, you got one, coach? As a quarterback? Would you throw your helmet?
First of my coaching career, it was Orange Lutheran, first half. We're going down. We're on a drive, and I don't know if it's 17-14 yet or whatever. I think half ended at 17-14 them, right? We're on a drive. We're going, and I was just, having a challenge with our sideline ref. As they're from out of the area, they don't know yet. I couldn't figure out why it was a difficult relationship from the get-go.
And you know it's going to be that way the whole game. When you
Yeah.
get those crews. That's the, yeah.
And we had I don't know, it was a big second down or third down. We did a boot, and our tight end, Scotty Turner, was going to slip out and, wide open, catch the ball, turn up the field, maybe a touchdown, whatever. And the guy virtually tackles him. And I'm like, I yelled. Flags me. I'm like, I literally just killed our offense. And we didn't score off that. And that was that. You don't want to do that. You can't take that away from the players.
Right.
It's their game. It's
Well,
their
let the
team.
players
And I
play.
let my
These guys get over
emotions.
officials. Yeah.
And I if I haven't apologized, I'm apologizing now. That was, as a coach, especially head coach, you got to keep your composure. And I was getting, I let the little verbal confrontation with the
Hey,
ref get the best of me. So
it
that was
happens.
terrible.
Okay, last one. Have you ever been late for practice? Did you get caught?
yeah.
yeah.
Now, did you try to talk your way out of it, or did you own it?
No, they don't.
Own
Evan
Come
may
on,
have.
Eddie.
Evan may have.
Just a little bit.
Half a lap
There you go.
around the field.
Hey, let's get to know you guys a little bit better. So I have some different questions. This is kind of a lightning round. So, just give your best honest answer. So, Evan, what is your best memory so far of playing the game of football? Your favorite memory?
The Edison game my sophomore year.
Okay.
It was the first game I started.
Was that the 5 overtime one? Yeah.
That's awesome.
You had to be exhausted after that, right?
I
5
was.
overtimes as a running back?
I know. It was pretty rough.
Yeah, I'm sure.
That was definitely your coming out party.
Yeah.
Is as much respect as we have for that school and that program, and that was our first year in the Sunset League, right? And
What
early
league
on-
did you come from?
The Irvine League, the Pacific Coast League.
Got it.
Which was a great year, league for us early on, and then as our program has kind of grown from back then we had 46 JV and varsity football players, and now, somewhere around 95 or 100, which is neat. I just remember as like, God, Evan is physical. And it was a boatload of carries and a bunch of yards, and I don't think you ever came out.
One time my helmet came off.
Your helmet came off.
No, that's the rule. They have to come out. That's the only. Yeah.
A little puppy dog against a real rugged defense, and that was a really, really big deal. I was very impressive that night, especially as a running back, just taking licks and pass pro and all that stuff. It's a tough position.
What about you, Mason? Best memories so far? Because obviously you're going to make more memories this year.
Yeah, so 2 came to mind. One sophomore year, one junior year. Sophomore year, Battle of the Bay.
Okay.
It was a dogfight, 10-7, 10-3.
Defensive battle.
Defensive battle. Kind of made a play at the end and won it. And then this junior year against San Clemente, another dogfight. The defensive games are my favorite.
Right.
7-3 against a good San Clemente team.
Yeah.
As a DC,
Yeah.
I mean, I know you're the head coach, but as somebody on the defense side of the ball, you guys had to feel great about that
Yeah,
effort.
I mean, I've never been happier, honestly. After a win, it was awesome.
That's
It was
great.
Great feeling.
All right.
It's fun to have those opportunities as a defensive player because we've been very, very fortunate, and a lot of kudos go to both of our coaching staff, but our offensive staff led by Kevin Heddick and his assistants. They do such a wonderful job so many nights scoring, and when you get in a dogfight and you got to win a game 10-3 or 7-3 or something, and the Oceanside game back in 19, where it's fun to have those those grinders, old school games.
All right. Easy question. Evan, who is your favorite teacher at Corona Del Mar High School? And what subject?
History.
History?
My favorite teacher.
Okay.
God,
Wow.
I got him buttered up. I must
All right.
have done that one.
Good answer.
Don't say it's because he's easy, right? You're
Right.
going to get him in trouble.
It was great to have him in class too, because you learn a different.
See a
you learn
different
about
side
them
of the kid,
personally.
yeah.
There's
Right.
so much of our interactions football oriented. It was a real joy to have him last year as a junior.
What about you, Mason?
My Spanish teacher, actually. I've had her my freshman year and then my junior year.
You want to give her a shout out?
Yeah, Miss Fajardo.
Okay. All right.
Excellent.
Favorite teacher.
Are you fluent yet?
Not fluent.
All right, well, let's
Take
go.
it
This
easy.
year, you
Muy
take
bien.
your senior
Yeah,
year?
yeah.
Spanish
Yeah.
for it? Nice. Good for you.
Mason, we'll start off with you this round. What person in your life do you admire the most? And, if you had to thank somebody for being an inspiration to you, who would that be?
Yeah, my grandma.
Okay.
Thank you, Mima. She is the most important person in my life. Just her. I just learned so much from her, and she raised me very well. My mom and dad are awesome as well, but my grandma, she's always been there for me.
That's great.
awesome.
That's
Tell
awesome.
about
Good to hear
the
that.
trip you guys went on with your grandma. I thought that was
I just
pretty
went
unique.
on one last week with her again.
So the second one, yeah.
So we go to Paris. I go to Paris with her every
Oh,
year.
wow.
She's from Paris, yeah.
That's awesome.
Just you two, right?
Yeah, just us two.
That's
pretty cool.
awesome.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're
Good for you two.
a well-traveled man then as well.
Yes, sir.
How about you, Evan?
My dad.
Your dad.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's the reason I got into football from at a young age and why I'm where I'm at.
Good.
He spends probably more time with Evan than any of us. A lot of times,
Yeah.
these young guys, teenage kids that don't want to be around their parents too much. Evan's so blessed to have a dad. Have a really neat relationship.
That's awesome.
Has been both an inspiration and I think a mentor for him, and it's really neat to see that relationship with a father and son.
So
at least.
One last one, a little bit tricky, so kind of put you on the spot a little bit. If you were able to meet one famous person, and they can be alive or not alive, you just got to hang out with them for the day. Who would that person be? What do you think, Mason?
Oh, man. Probably Elton John.
Wow.
Good poll.
Good answer. Yeah.
Good
One of my
pull.
favorite musicians. I think he's...
Elton John's great. Yeah. Yeah. That's a great answer. What about you, Evan?
Kevin Hart.
Kevin Hart. That's a great answer. Love
Two
Kevin
different
Hart.
personalities.
That's right.
That's right. I'd like to see those two guys.
Now
in the room, right?
that would be you imagine these two guys, Elton John and Kevin Hart at lunch. That's the four guys at the table at lunch.
That would be a good podcast.
Right. That'd be fun, wouldn't it?
All right, Mason, my question's quick and easy. In a game, would you rather have a sack or an interception?
Interception.
Okay.
Yeah.
You've been a running back now for 3 years. You're going to be the starter. So you have a pretty good idea. I'm sure you want to get the rock every play.
Of course.
But realistically speaking, how many carries would be ideal for you in a game?
Running the ball?
Running the ball. Now remember, once you got 11 guys bearing down on you, so there's a wear and tear factor.
That's the fun part, though.
Okay, well, then give me all right, so let me know. What do you think?
15 to 20.
15 to 20. Okay.
How many catches?
like 10 at least.
So he likes to be active.
He is really good at the backfield too, and one of the just a natural instinct is embraces and seeks out contact. Just
Sounds like a
in-
Marshall
with-
Falk type
It's my
of running
kind of
Well,
back.
just I like Austin Eckler for the Chargers is something I think Evan like just who's amazing in space, wants the contact,
And is always working.
and has just great vision and balance. It's just really neat to watch.
So let's talk about this season's upcoming schedule. Murph, do we have a copy of their schedule by any chance? Focus on the preseason. 2 games stand out in mind. San Clemente, only because last year that was a defensive battle, 7-3. And then Palos Verdes. Now, do you know what their mascot is?
Seeking.
The Sea King. So we're going to find out who the real Sea King is,
Who
right?
are the real Sea Kings?
We found out last year, but each year is a different challenge. So make sure you got to take care of business against those guys.
When I look at your schedule, I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up the Battle of the Bay. So what does that game mean to you guys? Just explain to someone who's never been a part of the Battle of the Bay how important that game is to the community of Corona Del Mar and Newport Beach.
It's more like everyone knows everyone on each other team, so it's kind of like
You grew up together?
Yeah, it's more like
Personal.
friends playing against each other and like just proving who's better.
Bragging rights.
For the whole
That's-
rest of the year, right?
100%.
What's
And
that whole ambiance like when you go there, the stadium? Is it packed? Both sides? There's
Yeah,
a lot of
it's really packed.
Yeah, the energy.
Great
of Battle of the
environment.
Bay is unmatched from any other game.
The pageantry is, there's a few great rivalries in this county, not to discount them, but for a local kid growing up in Newport Beach, it is so bragging rights. You got the guys north of the
Right.
bay, you got the guys south of the bay, and at one of, I think, the best football facilities in the county, if not Southern California, to play at Davidson Stadium. I mean, it's just incredible. Somewhere between 8,500 to 10,000 fans there. And
so it's packed. I mean, that's a
Oh,
great
it's-
And all
environment.
the alumni
can't
come
catch a
back.
Pageantry, the colors.
Yeah.
And I guess the thing that kind of rung our bell a little bit as a staff coming in, March of 2011, we had a little team meeting. All right, what's the most important game? You guys were thinking, what's your most important goal as a football team? Like we're thinking win league, win CIF, or blah, blah. We just want to beat Newport Harbor. I'm like, okay, we got it.
Isn't that
And-
amazing how one game can determine the success or lack of success in the
Yeah.
season? You can go 9-1. I mean, look at Ohio State last year. Won the Rose Bowl, won 10 games, but they lost to Michigan, and their fans were having none of
The
it.
team from up north.
Yeah.
It's
whatever they
unbelievable.
say, yeah.
So let me ask you this. Well, I have one question about the Battle of the Bay. That trophy, does it have a name?
The bell.
The bell.
It's the belt. So, but
Okay.
the actual trophy itself, it's an instrument on a ship.
Correct.
Do you know what those things are called? I've asked everybody in the sailing industry. Nobody can identify. They know what it is. They know what it was for, but nobody
It's
knows what
something
think
for
all my-
navigation.
Yeah, I think all my coaches are just going to punch me in the face later.
I didn't mean to
Forget
put you on
it.
the spot, 'cause
I'm
I've
just
talked to
drawing a
sailors and they
blank
don't
of
know.
what you call it.
It's like full speed, quarter speed.
Yes,
It rings down
yes.
below to the guys in the coal.
It's awesome, and there's the score of each year on there
Yeah, that's
historically in the Battle of the Bay, and if you have it, and at the moment we're fortunate enough to have it, you bring it to the game, the kids carry it out.
So where is
there.
that trophy right now? In the football office or is it in the school?
It's in our football office,
Okay.
and it has a prized possession right there.
Nice.
And,
That's awesome.
It means the world to these kids, and I think as coaches in this program, our job is to make sure they're as prepared as they possibly can for that game, knowing how important it is. And it's a great rivalry, whether it was with Coach Brinkley previously and now Coach Lofthouse. A great environment for these kids.
Well, Coach, in your defense, I've talked to people in the sailing industry, and they don't know what that thing is. They know what it does, and they just can't identify it by name. So if anybody can find out, put it in the comments below, please, and we'll give you a shout out on the air.
For sure.
The Battle of the Bay is even more important now because it's a key Sunset League game now for you as well.
Indeed.
So,
Yeah, it's part of the playoff hunt, for sure.
speaking of which, I mean, we know the Sunset League up and down. If I had to, ask you, what team could kind of sneak up on some people this year and maybe surprise you, or who's a dark horse contender in the Sunset League? Is there anybody that comes to mind?
I'm going to pick somebody a little bit different. It's just a little bit of the results from the other day, seeing how their linemen performed at their own tournament, the Huntington Beach.
We were thinking the same thing.
It's have a lot of respect for Coach Brown over there. Does a wonderful job with those kids. I mean, I think we all kind of knowing what to expect. The quality, the last couple of years with Los Al's and the Edisons and Newport Harbors.
Right.
And I think Fountain Valley's in a really good place, building with a really good coach who's going to do a great job. But Huntington Beach, I think, has a chance to, bring that line of scrimmage together. And they've always had the talent now. I think it may be come together at the right time. And I think it'll be great for that community as well.
So this question is going to be for the two of you. This year's CDM team versus last year's CDM team. Who's winning?
This year.
Is it even close? Oh, you had some good guys last year.
I don't think so. I don't
Really?
think so.
Okay, well, give me some reasons why. What do you like about this team?
I think over the off season, like we all came together and worked a lot harder than previous seasons because of COVID.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have that hunger, that fire. I mean, I know you return a lot of key players at key positions. Running back, quarterback, all your linebackers are back. I mean, you've got guys everywhere. So that seems fair.
We got 5 back on offense, 5 back on defense. Some phenomenal players from last year that will be missed sorely. The Charlie Mannins and Cole Clemmers up front, and Gavin Scotts. Wide receivers John Tipton and Max Lane and linebacker Bloom. A lot of really good players in the back end as well. But this is a group that I think needed and wanted that natural football calendar. Okay, when the season's done, we started lifting in December, and then we lift in January and February and March. So it's the first year we've been back on a normal football calendar lifting. And I think that the weight room is where this program, and many programs, are the culture's developed. And I think we like
You can
maybe
feel it
many
in there,
programs,
just
you
the
can feel
intensity
you
and
just
the-
don't, well, it's just that's where you bond. That's where you earn the right to be a Sea King in our program. The
And
right
that's
to be
where
a Sea King.
championships begin.
That's where they begin. And it's the culture in there, it's the work ethic. And I think it was big kudos to Coach Teddy Barber and Kayvon, our wide receiver coach, who've done a great job with their strength program. This offseason, the guys have bought into it. It just feels, I think these guys, it gives them a lot of confidence. When you're stronger and stuff, and not lifting for that year and a half or whatever was really awkward. But I won't say who's necessarily better. I'll try to keep it politically correct, but I'm by all means,
You're gonna get
I
some
think
emails
this is a really
former players.
really unique group with the senior leadership and a multitude of guys who are 3-year starters from that spring team a couple years ago that came together really well this summer, one of the best summers we've ever had. And you can kind of have a sense and a feel. It's a unique leadership group.
One player I want to give a shout out to, and it's kind of an interesting story, is Caleb Annette. He's one of your backup quarterbacks. You talked about he could probably start at most any school. It'd be very easy for him to transfer because the grass always seems greener on the other side. But he's stuck with his teammates and wants to be a part of your program. Just tell us a little about his story and kind of how you figure to get him in this year, because I know you've got a 3-year start quarterback already, but maybe get him some shots at other positions on the field. And certainly he might be your guy next year.
Yeah.
He didn't take off and he stayed with the
I think it's
team.
really unique, and I hope our players, we rely on our culture more than anything else we do. And I think the kids that live in our community, every single one of them, who come to play for this school, it means something. It's important to them to represent their community and where they live, et cetera.
I mean, you guys all grew up together. You know one another. I mean, that's cool to play with your buddies from childhood.
For sure. And I think Caleb has developed a lot of trust with our coaching staff that we always challenge every one of our players, whether it's the next running back or the next lineman. You got to be as good or equal to him. And David, who's just done a wonderful job for 3 years, and we challenged Caleb, and he earned the right to play last year. I think he played about 20% of the time last year. I mean, he'd just go in, and they've been rotating all summer. And a credit to David, who being the older kid, and then a credit to Caleb, like, I'm okay.
Yeah.
And to them, it's completely transparent, and number two, it's just seamless. I mean, they're both going to be really, really successful quarterbacks at the quote-unquote next level, but that time will come. I think they're enjoying being Sea Kings, and it'll be really fun at times having them both on the field. Sometimes Caleb can play wide receiver as well, and he'll play quarterback as well. I think the kudos go to both those young men of how they've handled it, because it's never been an issue in our football program, and sometimes that can be difficult. It's because those two young men's character and how they don't make it a big deal.
I've played with players who didn't start till their senior year at the quarterback position and got scholarships to SC. I mean, the idea that you have to be a 4-year starter to get a scholarship is not necessarily the case. If you're good, especially nowadays with all the social media, they're going to find you. So, still being patient, learning the offense in the program. he'll get his opportunity. And I love the fact that he's stuck with his teammates. You just don't see that as much as you used to, and I love it.
In every spring, and there's probably 60, 70, or 75, 80 schools come by. I mean, it takes 5 minutes to figure out, okay, that kid can throw a football.
He's a dude.
I mean, and, the other schools that come, it's like, you got 2 of them? I was like, yeah, they're Sea Kings. And, the next, he's talented, David's talented, and they're both going to do a great job this year. And we really look forward to them both on the field and playing. I know David will have a great senior year, and Caleb will play a bunch this year and have a great senior year as well next year.
Good. You ready for the Cup Challenge?
I think it is time,
get 'em out.
gentlemen. We're going to see some of your athletic prowess here in person.
So Adol sets it up. I'll kind of let you guys know what's happening here. We've had 3 teams in so far.
One for
And this is
you.
the Cup Stacking Challenge. It's for the Sunset
One
League
for you.
Championship of Cup Stacking. You're going to make a pyramid with these cups. Have you seen this before?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So the bottom row will be 5, then 4, then 3, then 2, then 1. Then you collapse it, and it's going to start like this and finish like this. We're going to time you. The winning team is going to come back. We'll bring you on the show, and we got a really cool reward for you guys for the winning team.
This is awesome.
Now, Los Al came in. They did okay. They're beatable. Huntington came in 2 weeks ago. Was it AJ?
AJ Vandermeer, that guy.
He darn near set a world record. But being
He's
an
got
honorable
cup
guy,
experience.
He's a
no, he got
Cup
nerve-
Challenge
He tried to make
master.
it perfect at the end and collapsed the whole thing. I mean, if he'd just done it without trying to be perfect, he would have probably been on TikTok. With the
If
world
you
record.
if you blinked, you would have missed him doing it. I mean, he was like lightning fast. So
That cost him, so it's
That's
wide
the
open. That's the
challenge.
point. This thing is wide open. We're not going to give you their times because we want to make sure we don't know till the end. But when we say go ahead and start stacking.
Start like this or that?
Yeah, just flip them over in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay.
You guys,
so there's 15 total cups, and then
Yeah.
you got to.
and we'll take the
Take it
best of
back
the 2
down.
scores. So if you fumble and drop it, better hope Evan steps up.
Yeah, your
Vice
your
versa.
team here, you're competing
Okay.
against the other schools.
And go. That's
Evan, how's it
okay.
going?
Keep going, keep going.
Mason's almost
Look at
there.
Mason's.
Wow. Oh.
Collapse it, collapse it. There you go. And stop.
Done. Ooh.
All right. Log it.
Good score.
Mark it, dude.
Score is official and in the books. I will say this: we won't reveal who the #1 school is so far, but I will say that is a very good score there.
Gosh, you got a shot.
So
You
that's
might be
a
coming
very good
back.
score.
There you go, baby.
We'll have to wait and see. Well, guys, thank you so much for coming down today, spending some time with us. We really appreciate you coming in. I know you're busy. You just started fall camp officially today, right?
Today was
How'd that go?
Excellent. It was great to see the kids more than anything. They had a couple weeks off with the mandatory 2-week dead period. It was just like they were ready to get back to it, I think, too. I think it's really important to get that mental, emotional, and physical break. Because coming off spring ball and coming off summer, you got a nag here, an ankle here, and it just gives you a chance to get healthy. I think for the first time in a long time, it was like everybody's healthy. It was great. And I think, we were part of the defensive practice today, and the intensity level and the effort and everything, it was just like, oh, these guys are ready to work. And shout out to Brian Pearsall and the defensive staff. They've done a great job preparing these guys similar to our offense group, and it's just really good to get back together again.
Well, Coach, gentlemen, we're really looking forward to watching you guys this year. Best of luck.
We're all looking
Thank you.
forward to the football season. So
Absolutely.
special thank you to Coach Dan O'Shea and Evan Sanders and Mason Kubicheck for joining us today here at Sunset Rewind. Thank you very much, everyone out there, for watching. Have a great day. God bless you.
Thank you.